Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into the HearSports Podcast Show. I'm Kyle Newman, your host.
And I'm Rhett Hensley, your co-host.
On this show, anything sports goes, whether professional, college, or even high school. Debate is highly likely, laughter is always encouraged, good times is a given, and hashtag great sports talk will be a reoccurring theme. Today we will talk about the NBA Finals, NFL rules, Matthew Dellavedova, and fan problems on the PGA Tour. Rhett Hensley, good afternoon, our fourth HearSports show. We are a month into this. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great.
You sound it.
Yeah, I'm suffering from a little bit of a cold, but hey.
I didn't even notice. You sound great.
Oh, well, hey, there we go. Perfect.
That's what matters. You ready to talk sports?
Well, first, I'd like to know how you're doing.
Hey, let me tell you something. I'm doing great, mainly
Good.
because my Chicago Blackhawks are going to win their third Stanley Cup in 6 years tonight on home ice. I'm pumped. I actually get a night off from work. It's going to be great. I wish I was in Chicago, Rhett.
Oh, I bet you do.
Go Blackhawks.
Go
I'm doing
Blackhawks.
great, and I'm ready to talk some sports. We have some exciting segments to talk about, Rhett. Let's start with the first. How about the NBA Finals? It's been arguably the greatest NBA Finals in history, and I would have to agree with that.
I would
right
too.
Now, we're going to go through the games since last week's show that have occurred, but right now, currently, the Warriors are up 3-2. They are looking to win the NBA Finals tomorrow night at Cleveland. We'll get to our predictions for Game 6 there, but let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit, Rhett. June 9th, the Cavaliers pulled out the home victory, 96-91, and that was an amazing game. I want to get your thoughts here on what you thought of Game 3 in Cleveland.
Well, it was a pretty good game. Steph Curry shot 50%, took 20 shots, had 27 points. He's been struggling. He's been struggling, but he had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and on the turnover factor, that's one of the parts he's struggling. I think that his head has just not been in the game ever since he'd taken a little spill, which was an ugly spill.
It sure was.
He got a little shaken up, but he's starting to turn it on, and LeBron. Oh my gosh, I think that we both can agree. This guy is a monster.
He is.
But he shot 14 of 34 that game, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, and 40 points. The man can do it all, but he struggled when it came to making some baskets. But
he did. And here, go ahead, Rhett.
And one of the key things for Cleveland, as I saw, would be Delly. I'm gonna have to make his name short because I can't say it. But Delly.
Matthew Dellavedova.
Yeah, Matthew Dellavedova.
You mess it up every time.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and he's one of the key factors for them. He's defensively driven, and now that he had to lay off his coffee because this is the game I believe that he started cramping up. Am I right, Kyle?
I believe so.
Yeah, he had to get taken to the hospital after this game, and he thinks it's due to his coffee. He has a cup of coffee. He has a cup of Joe.
Cheers.
Right before the game, and at halftime he drinks another cup of coffee.
Wow.
That is insane.
What a routine. Well, it's paid off for the man. Let me tell you what my thoughts are on this game. Matthew Dellavedova, player of the game. I know LeBron James scored 40 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. Unbelievable numbers. And almost had another triple-double, which we will get to in the next couple games because he just keeps making history. But let's face it, the Cavaliers don't win this game if it wasn't for Matthew Dellavedova. Down the stretch, the man came in clutch. He had 20 points to finish this game, and what impressed me the most about him, you mentioned it, Rhett, his defense. He shut Steph Curry down in this game. Even though Steph Curry finished with 27, down the stretch, it was all Matthew Dellavedova. He was pulling in the clutch rebounds. He was hitting the floor. his relentless effort is what impresses me, and he hit the 2 clutch free throws at the end when, something I've noticed is unlike LeBron in this series is LeBron's been struggling from the free throw line, and it's really been hurting this team. But there's no question about it. Matthew Dellavedova really helped LeBron James and this team out, because that's the key in this series is LeBron with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving down has to have help from his supporting cast. And if it's not, I heard this, my buddy told me this saying yesterday, and it cracked me up. He said, J.R. Smith is so up and down, he's like a Christmas tree. You take it up, it goes up for a couple weeks, it goes down. Yeah, that's how J.R. Smith is. And when J.R. Smith, it is. I wanted to write that one down to keep that in my little notebook for good phrases. But no, seriously, when he, being J.R. Smith, is not hitting his shots and is inconsistent, he ruins this team. And defensively, too. Makes some of the stupidest fouls that a player could make and really can cost them games, and it has in this series. But that's the biggest difference. If they don't have help with J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Matthew Dellavedova, which in these next couple games we'll get to, they didn't. It's only LeBron James. I will say this. The bread and butter that's worked for the Cavaliers in this series is LeBron James throws it up to Timothy Mozgov. Slam. And one. It's worked this whole series for them when they've won their 2 games and competed where they could have the lead in this series. It could be vice versa. Mozgov was the center of this team with LeBron James, and they got support from Dellavedova and even J.R. Smith and Shumpert. Shumpert's a great defender, very underrated. And that's the key for this team. Tristan Thompson, rebounding like Shaquille O'Neal, unbelievable. And in this game, it was clearly Matthew Dellavedova down the stretch that helped this Cavs team win, and it was very impressive. But the numbers were similar with the teams. If you looked at the stats, you really wouldn't be totally shocked by the outcome. But the Warriors shot 40%. The Cavs 46%, not a lot better. The Warriors made 12 threes. The Cavaliers made 9. So the Warriors did their thing from downtown, which helped bring them back. It was a little too late for them. But points in the paint, very similar. Turnovers, very similar. So it was a game. It was a close game. Another impressive game in this series, Rhett, and that's really what I saw in this one as the Cavaliers got the win to go up 2-1 in the series. Well, let's take a look at Game 4, which was another story, as the Cavaliers got their second home game in this series a couple nights later, and it was all Golden State as they got the win 103-82, blew them out. Now, it wasn't for a while, it was a good game, but the Warriors pulled away late, Rhett. What did you see in this Game 4?
Well, this was a big game for them. They changed directions in this one. Early in the series, the thing that was, I think, holding them back, they were trying to make LeBron do everything. And I'll tell you what, you let LeBron do everything, he's going to do everything. Yep. And he's more than likely going to lead the team and win. But in this one, I think in a game on the 14th, it was they stopped LeBron. They were making their bench score, and when they were, Iggy was getting jiggy with it.
You like my saying there. Good one.
I liked it. He's what stopped LeBron. He put pressure on LeBron and made him work for every shot that he took.
He did.
And he took some, and he hit some. But LeBron, he was under control. LeBron finished with
20.
40 points. 20? 20?
You're half there.
And I had the wrong one pulled up. Finished with 20 points, so Iggy really controlled him, and they made him try to do it, but they wanted the bench to show that they could take over. And J.R. Smith, as you said, the up and down as a Christmas tree.
It's up and down like a Christmas tree.
Played awful. Played absolutely awful, and that's what they made the Cleveland Cavaliers do. They made the bench show up, and the bench did not show up.
No, they did not. And here's the differences in this game for me. One, Andre Iguodala, player of the game, shut LeBron James down.
Exactly.
Finished with 22 points, which is what Steph Curry finished with as well. Draymond Green played well, had 17. Defensive intensity was there with him, but no doubt about it, Andre Iguodala was the difference maker in this game, and then that helped lead to Curry getting hot late and them really pulling away. But it really, for a while, it was not. Splash Brothers were cold. It was Draymond Green and it was Andre Iguodala. It was the supporting cast of this team that helped keep them in the lead, let alone helped get them over the hump and start to increase that lead and get some distance. That was the difference there. As far as the Cleveland Cavaliers go, what can you say about LeBron James? He got shut down by Andre Iguodala, but he had no help. And the man still almost finished with a triple-double. 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. He did struggle because Iguodala shut him down. But let's face it, I'm going to mention J.R. Smith because you said it right there. Killed this team. He shot 2 of 12 from the field, 0 of 8 from downtown, and finished with 4 points. That's terrible. The Cleveland Cavaliers cannot win this series without outside help from LeBron James. Matthew Dellavedova had an awful night, 3 of 14 from the field, 10 points, 2 of 9 from downtown. Timothy Mozgov was the difference, and a big reason why this team was still in this game for a while was LeBron and Mozgov had that bread and butter down. Mozgov finished with a game high for them, 28 points. And he was 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Double-double. So, he had a great game. Tristan Thompson, 12 points. How about 13 rebounds? The man's a monster. This team was in it for a while, and it's going to take more than just those two players to be the supporting cast. They need this whole team to be in sync. Without Love and without Kyrie Irving, this team just does not have the offensive power. And when they're settling for jump shots, and this Warriors team's getting hot, they're struggling. The Cavs are struggling to get back on defense. They can't guard this team. It just goes to show how much deeper the Warriors are. And, my buddies made a comparison after last night's Game 5. This Warriors team's like the San Antonio Spurs. They share the ball very well, and they're very effective. And that's what I saw in this Game 4. The Cavaliers were shut down at home, embarrassed, and the series is tied 2-2. So shifting to last night's Game 5, how are the Cavaliers going to respond? Series is tied, just got embarrassed on their home court. Going to Golden State, well, Golden State took a 3-2 series lead in a game that, again, for a while was a very good game. Warriors pulled away late, got the win 104-91. Rhett, what was the difference for you in this game?
Well, like you said, defense, the defense was kind of non-existent, I think, for the Cavaliers. Matthew
Dellavedova.
Delly, I think that he is like their little Energizer bunny for their defense for the Cavaliers. And, he is extraordinary at defense. We'll get more into him later in one of our segments, but I don't like him. But I do respect his defensive play. But on the shooting aspect, he's not very good. He's not a good shooter.
He hasn't been.
He hasn't been. And, he did have a game. I think he had 20 points.
Yes.
Right around there. And, he does have his ups and downs with that. And, I'm going to say it's related to coffee because, he hasn't had his coffee this game because he did give it up. after his cramps in the hospital.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think that Iggy was another reason why they won this game again. Do you agree, Kyle?
I'm going to disagree.
You're going to disagree?
That he was the reason that they won this game. I'm going to say that the reason they won this game was because of Steph Curry getting extremely hot late with his boogie moves and step-back threes and the 30-footer Reggie Miller range ignited this team. It's what pulled them away. He was the top performer for them with 37 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Impressive.
I can agree with that.
What's amazing to me is that LeBron James, though he put up a lot of shots, had himself another triple-double, 40 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists. The man, you almost have to feel bad for the guy unless you don't like him. What else can he do in this game? It was all him. He had no help. He couldn't stay out for 30 seconds before he had to come back in this game because this team falls apart without him, especially without their other 2 stars. He had no help tonight. Tristan Thompson was the only other player for the Cavs that really was giving that great effort and help. He finished with 19 points and, of course, to no surprise, 10 rebounds because the man can rebound like a beast. But other than that, this team shot 39% from the field.
Here's this question, Kyle.
What's that?
Did they make the wrong decision by not playing Timothy Mozgov?
Yes, they did.
More than 9 minutes. Because I think LeBron and him are the bread and butter.
They are. I was shaking my head I don't understand David Blatt's head here. Some may say could have costed them this game. How are you going to play the guy who's been the key to this series 9 minutes, and he did not score 1 point? It's beyond me.
Took one shot.
Yeah, it
Zero
does
rebound.
not make sense to me. Clearly they were trying to match up because the Warriors were going small. It still doesn't make sense to me. Have the advantage with Moscow. He's been dominating for them. He just finished with 28 points in Game 4. I just don't understand the mindset that they had here. I think it cost them. We will not see this again in Game 6 tomorrow night. I can assure you that in Cleveland. But I think it cost them. But it was definitely Steph Curry that got this team going, got them hot. They shot 48% from the field. They shot 46% from downtown, made 12 three-pointers. Steph Curry was the difference maker. Andre Iguodala had finished with 14, and his defense has been very effective. Now, he wasn't on LeBron all game like he was when he shut him down in Game 4, but he did have a solid game. I would look at Draymond Green with 16, had a solid supporting cast performance. Leandro Barbosa came up big, the veteran, with 13 off the bench. So it was just an all-around solid performance for this team. And then, other than that, you look at the stats again, and you would be surprised. The biggest difference was fast break points. The Warriors 18-3 outscored the Cavs in that aspect, but points in the paint and team turnovers were very similar. So
Curry had 17 in the fourth quarter. 17 points. Something about him that really just gets ignited when it's the fourth quarter. And even the games that he played bad, he started knocking down shots in the fourth quarter. So, he's a fourth quarter oriented player, I feel like. And when I was talking about Iguodala being one of the more boosts to this game, he did guard LeBron, I would say, a little over half the time. But if Iguodala would not have been in the game, I would say that LeBron would have went for at least 60.
Yeah, and he probably would have. You mentioned Matthew Dellavedova. Is a good shooter when he's on. He's inconsistent. This was one of those games. LeBron couldn't buy. He couldn't buy outside help. Dellavedova shot 2 of 9 from the field, finished with 5 points. A lot of those shots were key shots down the stretch where he had a couple wide open threes, missed them badly. when the Cavs really needed them. LeBron trusted to get it to his teammates instead of take it himself. It cost them. He had no outside help from the perimeter shooters. It can't happen. Shumpert with 10, 3 of 9 from the field. This team will lose at home if, which we're going to get into the Game 6 prediction here, if this happens again. But I don't expect it. The Cavaliers went down 3-2 in this series, losing to the Warriors at Golden State 104-91. Game 6 tomorrow night in Cleveland. Let's get to the predictions, Rhett. I'll start with myself here. Cleveland forces a Game 7 in Oakland. No doubt in my mind, after they got destroyed in Game 3, in Game 4 at home, after they got beat on the road, so 2 games in a row, LeBron will not go back home to Cleveland and lose twice in a row at home. Absolutely not. This team will find a way to win this game. LeBron's head, fans will be going for their head if he loses at home in this city. It will not happen. He will do whatever it takes. If he has to get carted off the court because he can't breathe, they will win this game. I think it will be a good game. I'm gonna predict it will come down to the end. I'm gonna say Cavs by 6. Let's say 100-94. It's going to be, maybe it goes to overtime. I wouldn't be surprised if this is an overtime game, but I think the Cavs find a way to win. I think Dellavedova will play better. I think that Shumpert will step up. I think Mozgov this will be a completely different game. He will be involved in this offense. Tristan Thompson will continue doing his thing on the boards. J.R. Smith, my key in this game is J.R. Smith has to hit at least 3 threes. And one of those needs to be in the second half, and he needs to, and his shots needs to be under 8. And if his shots are under 8, and he's hit 3 or 4 threes, and he is not in the game down the stretch on defense, Cavs should be just fine. I predict them to force a Game 7 in this incredible NBA Finals. Rhett, what's your prediction?
Oh boy, we're going in different directions. I think I'm gonna make 2 predictions here. First of all, I'm going to say that LeBron scores more than 40 points. More than 40 points in this game. And more than likely, he's going to have a triple-double.
Absolutely.
Now for my second prediction. That's not going to be enough. The Warriors are going to pull it off. I think that the main reason why my prediction is this way, their bench play is going to Shumpert, I think that, he's an underrated defender, and, I think that when he's hot, he can shoot, but him and J.R. Smith are very inconsistent when it comes to shooting, and, the Warriors, they're out for blood. Curry, if he has another game like he did last night, I don't see them losing. Especially in the fourth quarter, because that man is clutch.
He is.
When it comes to shooting, he is one of the best shooters I've seen play the game personally in my lifetime. I could say that about Reggie, but, he was more when I was a lot younger. But this man, he is just amazing when it comes to shooting. And him and Thompson, both, they're gonna have to gel. Thompson, I believe, last game had 12 points or something like that, and he can't have that again. And he can't foul. I think he had 5 personal fouls last game. So it's gonna come down to the Warriors and Cavs. I think it's gonna be another overtime game. My prediction at the beginning was it was gonna be overtime every game, which it's. Man, it would have been great. But this is one of the best series I've been able to experience, and it could possibly be the best NBA Finals I've experienced. So, as I said, the Cavaliers, I think, are going to lose in overtime by 5 points, and LeBron, as he's played like a beast, he's going to fall short, and that's going to be because of the team.
It's a bold prediction, Rhett. I'm gonna disagree. I think that part of the reason that it will help in my prediction with the Cavs winning is I don't think Steph Curry has another great game. I think that this is a game where I think I see everyone chilling off a little bit because this crowd will be ecstatic, and I think that I believe that the Cavs are going to get it done at home. I think they're going to make adjustments defensively. I think Dellavedova will play a great defensive game on Steph Curry, and I wouldn't surprise me if he puts up mid-20s. I don't see him going for high 30s. I'll say low to mid-high 30s or 40s. I don't see that happening. I think that it'll be more of maybe spread across the board for the Warriors that keeps them in this game. Probably Iguodala playing solid basketball to help them out, but yeah, I do. We're going to agree to disagree on the prediction of this game.
Hey,
It'll be fun to talk about on next week's show.
And I want it to end in Game 6 because I won't be able to watch Game 7. I'll be at Kevin Hart. And I will be very frustrated if I'm at Kevin Hart not watching the game. So
I know.
Unfortunate dates falling on, but I will not be very happy if I miss this Game 7.
That's true.
And I wanna finish it off me watching it.
Hey, I agree. I completely understand. I believe I will have to be working too, so it will stink. But the bottom line is it should be a great game. I want to mention a couple stats of the history here. LeBron has the most points scored in the first 3 games of the NBA Finals in history. Incredible. In NBA Finals history, Game 3, winner of the series tied 1-1, has gone on to win the series 84% of the time. That would bode well for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And how about this in Game 3? This just goes to show, what the Cavs did. LeBron and Dellavedova had 60 points combined. The Splash Brothers had 41. It was a difference there. Will that be the same thing in Game 6 as the Cavs are on the brink to try and keep them alive? How about a couple other stats here? It just goes to show what Steph Curry's doing. That's incredible. Before this year, Reggie Miller, our own Reggie Miller, Reggie, the classic clutch three-point shooter that he was, held the NBA record for made threes in one postseason with 58. Steph Curry now has 95. So that just goes to show what he's done.
Another fact on that is the first year when they had the 3-point line brought out, the most made 3-pointers by the total. By all the teams was 90 3-pointers made, and Curry last night surpassed that by having 91 himself.
Yeah, it's just incredible, really. What the history they're making. That would be a fun debate to maybe for a future show is where will Steph Curry end all time on that list? Because our yours truly, Reggie Miller. Our favorite player ever, clutchest shooter in our minds. Steph Curry has to be already in that discussion now. That would be a fun little topic debate to have. But last stat before we get on to the next segment, only 2 legends have generated more offense in a finals game than LeBron. That's insane to me. That would be Jerry West and Walt Frazier. The history that he's making, it's interesting, and maybe another segment that will be down the line. I was talking with my buddies about this during the game. What's his legacy going to be if he loses another finals with this Cleveland Cavalier team, let alone, but with all the comparisons that they're having to Michael Jordan and the greats, to only have 2 rings when you've been to the finals 6 times. It's really unbelievable to think, if he can't get it done again, and how's the city going to embrace him? You almost have to feel bad because, let's face it, the team is not the same that he has. Something else that I wouldn't agree with that my friends had told me last night, saying that if they had a healthy Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, that they would have swept the Warriors in this finals. I definitely did not agree with that. I made the argument that I think the series might actually not be that much different. I would have predicted maybe Cavs in 6 instead of 7, which is my prediction now. But that would be another interesting thing to talk about for sure, and maybe down the line on future shows. But we'll see. We'll talk about on next week's show who will be the NBA Finals champion. Will it be the Golden State Warriors or will it be the Cleveland Cavaliers? Rhett, it will be interesting to see.
I'm excited. I'm
for the record, I'm excited as well. I did have the Cavs in 7. That was my prediction. You've changed yours 5 to 6 times. What are you at now?
Yeah, apparently. Well, I said I was at 5 on the show, so I'm sticking with that. Mine's abolished, but I do expect them to win the next game. So I'm going to say in 6. But right. my first prediction got taken out, so
it did.
I'm X'd out. Kyle's still in the running to win the contest.
It would be incredible.
You win giggles. That's it.
That's right. It will be so exciting to see because by this weekend we will know who's the NBA champions of the 2014-2015
Who's crowned? Is it the King
season.
Or is it Chef Curry?
Yeah, that's
Who
right.
Will know?
Who will it be? It'll be exciting to see how it goes down. Hopefully, we will not have to miss the games, but we will because I have to work tomorrow night, and I will probably have to work for the Game 7 if there is one. So it will be interesting to see. Follow those updates on the phone. A little Twitter tweet about what's going on. It'll be interesting to see. Tweet Twitter, Rhett. Twitter, tweet,
yep.
Twitter.
Man.
That's how we do. We mix things up on this show. All right, Rhett, let's get into this next segment here. Let's talk about some NFL rules. Some that need to change, some that are changing. There's a lot on the docket. How about I start this one off? The biggest change that has already occurred, I'm sure you've heard about this, Rhett. The extra point will now be kicked off from the 15-yard line, but the 2-point conversions will be remaining at the 2-yard line. They claim that this new rule will give the defense the ability to score 2 points on returns because if the defense returns a blocked extra point or failed 2-point try for a touchdown, like an interception, they'll be awarded 2 points. Under the previous rule, the ball was dead on a failed try. I like this, Rhett. I am a fan of this rule change because I think it makes it more interesting. There could legitimately be missed extra points now or blocked extra points, and now there's implications with points if the defense there's more for them to try on this extra point. If the New England Patriots are playing the Indianapolis Colts and it's the end of the game, 0 seconds left, they just scored. The Colts were up 7. Patriots are down 1 now. Extra point. The Colts block it. The game's over because it was kicked from the 15-yard line. I like this rule change, Rhett. What do you think about it?
I agree. I think it's a great rule change. I'm not a big fan of altering the game, but there are some rules. Yes, there are some exceptions that I do like. And, as we've talked, we've done quite a few rule changes in the NBA, Kyle. And, it kind of transitions back to this, but I'm not a big fan of them, but there are some that help the game, and there are some that need to be implemented.
I agree, and I'm a traditionalist as well, but this is one exception because I think it'll just add an interesting twist to the game, and now both teams, offense and defense, have something to try for hard on these extra points because it's been a cupcake for them. But now it's not, and I really like it. I think it will make the games interesting and more competitive, and it could change outcomes. So I like it. There is something that's also interesting. Teams could change their attempt decision if a penalty occurs. So, for instance, if a team chooses to go for 2 points and they're called for an offensive penalty, they could then decide to kick a 1-point try.
Yeah.
So they really thought this one out, and I really like it. But this is the biggest one. I think fans will like this one too, Rhett.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go down though, because there's actually 7 new rules that the NFL is set to adopt this next 2015-2016 season. I definitely am going to lay them on you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And one of them, we'll go into them in depth. maybe disappointed on one of them that might have affected your Cowboys, even though Des Bryant didn't catch the ball.
Oh,
so
gosh.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But let's just go through them here. All right. The peel back block is one of the rules that's changed. It includes all the offensive players being penalized as opposed to just those inside the tackle box. Second one, protecting receivers. Extends the protection if the pass is intercepted and the intended receivers remain unable to defend themselves from a hit. Third one, chop block. It's now illegal for a back to chop a defensive player engaged above the waist by another offensive player outside the tight end area. Fourth one, pushing a teammate at the line of scrimmage on punts and field goals. Now illegal. Game clock. There is now the ability to review the game clock at the end of a half, game, or overtime to determine if there should be more time remaining. And medical timeout. The timeout stops action and allows medical officials to remove a player who observes believes to be injured or concussed. The player is going to be removed from the game and undergo a sideline examination or undergo the league's concussion protocol. Player's team would be allowed to substitute for him, and the opposing team would be given a chance to change personnel as well. So, Rhett, these are the new rules that are going to be adopted here. What do you think about them?
It's a couple interesting ones. I like the. I think as your. You want to go back and say your second to last one?
The second to last one, game clock?
Yes, game clock. I like how you can go back and review the game clock to see if there should be more time. Kind of like the NBA.
Yes.
You can go back, and I think that's sometimes needed because refs can't make, or the game or the clock person cannot always, people make mistakes, so that should be able to go back and be reviewed to make sure that the time is correct, especially when it comes down to crunch time.
I agree. I think that these are fine rule changes. I will say this, though. I think that what's interesting to me is the rule that was not changed. This is the biggest thing because this was a lot of debate and it settles around your Cowboys. The rule that was not changed really was the biggest rule that I think the NFL needed to look at. Like I said, the best thing out of all of these rule changes was the extra point. I like that. These other ones are fine. A couple of them I'm not too fond of. The chop block. I like the game clock one. Protecting receivers is a good one.
I don't like that one.
Pushing a teammate at the line of scrimmage on punts and field goals being illegal now. I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
So I think they got a few of these wrong. But the main thing I think they really got wrong, and I thought for sure it was going to be addressed and changed, at least the lingo, was going to be what is a catch? They did not change it, Rhett. What constitutes a legal catch? Basically, the rule is not changed, but they changed the verbiage a little bit of the rule, which does nothing because the verbiage, the refs are getting it wrong as it is with the verbiage. Here's what the committee has now looked at the language and changed it to. In order to complete a catch, the receiver has to have control, both feet on the ground, and he has to have it after that long enough to clearly establish himself as a runner. This would fall directly in line with our defenseless player rule, where we say a receiver is protected until he can clearly establish himself as a runner. So what does that mean? So he has the ability to ward off, protect himself from the impending contact. Okay, the defenseless player rule, I like that one. That's a safety one. That's good. This one I do not. I know you don't, so I'm going to let you get into this one. They got this wrong. The verbiage change is essentially the same thing. Shouldn't it just be, if it's a catch, it's a catch?
It should be, and as we saw, this was a huge controversy.
It cost them the game.
It did.
I will admit that.
It cost Dallas the game in the playoffs.
Against the Packers.
Yeah, against the Packers.
They could have gone on to the NFC Championship.
and they would have won. But moving on.
That's a different topic for another day, for another debate, for another show.
I know, we can't see the future. So, it drives me insane. This is something that clearly should have been changed. And
it was the biggest talk, before you keep going, Rhett, it was the biggest talk, or it should have been. It was during the season. It should have been during the off season. Just like 2 years ago with the replacement refs. It truly changes the outcomes of games. There were several games this year where the outcome of the game was changed because of this rule. I agree that it's stupid. As much as I hate to admit it, I say that it wasn't a catch. It's because I joke around. Des Bryant caught that football. He went down to the ground. He went down to the ground. But I will say this, and I've stood by this. By the rule, which is why it needs to be changed, he didn't, because it popped out after he was on the ground. But let's face it, he caught it, he secured it, he brought it to the ground, he extended, and then the ball rolled off the ground. The rule, that's how bad this rule is, and I'm shocked that this rule was not changed, and they just tried to change the verbiage. So what that they changed the language of it? That you think that's really going to make a difference in it changing that call this year? It's going to be called inconsistently again, and fans are going to have for this the officials' heads, Rhett.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be another big controversy this year, because I know it's going to happen multiple times, and it's going to tick fans off. It's going to get blasted all over ESPN once again, as it did with the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be another big issue, and that's one of the things that they should have definitely touched on, and not just change the verbiage.
I agree with that.
It's irritating as a fan, and it's irritating as a sports watcher when something that should be definitely changed is not changed, and it's hurting the actual game.
I agree with that. Here's another penalty a rule change that I realized was not changed. I don't know if it was talked about, but it wasn't changed, and this was probably the second biggest penalty rule that irritates fan and gets chatter about something has to be done, because much like the NBA, it's making the NFL soft, and it is killing the defenders, and that would be the pass interference rule. Pass interference, Rhett, has to be changed. Not the penalty itself, the way that it's called, the verbiage in that penalty, it needs to be changed. They are calling pass interference calls when the cornerback off the line of scrimmage, 5 yards off, puts his hand on his hip, and then he puts his other hand on his shoulder to give a little shove. They're calling pass interference on it. They're calling a half a second snag on the jersey a pass interference call. It's changing the game. It really is affecting the strategy, the field position, and it's changing the outcomes of games, Rhett. Would you agree that the pass interference rule needs to be altered?
I agree. It's something that does need to be altered, and I think with football, they're starting to get away from the physicality of the sport.
They are, and they're making it difficult for defenders to play defense.
And another thing that I think that is kind of ridiculous, as you touched on with one of the rule changes, is protecting the wide receiver even more. I don't really like that. I just think it's taking away from the game. Obviously, you're going to get hit. Now, there are some things that should be made a rule just because it could really damage the person.
Yes.
But I think that they are putting too much rules around hitting a player, and I think it's a sport.
I agree. It's professional football.
Yeah,
it's their career. You're making millions.
I'll tell you what, the panties league for the girls, they hit harder than that. Yes, the lingerie league, they hit harder than that. I mean, come on.
I agree that it's one of the most frustrating calls every time. I can't help but note it. Every time Andrew Luck throws a bomb downfield to one of our gazillion talented receivers, every single time, I almost start shaking my head immediately because there's going to be a pass interference call. Now, when it's on offense, that's where I would be the most frustrated, and it's not called as much. Now, on defense mainly is what I really mean, where I'd really be frustrated. The Colts defense, if a bomb's thrown and a pass interference is called, because it's called almost every time, it seems. It really does, and it slows the game down, and it's frustrating. On offense, it doesn't happen as much because they're protecting the receivers. They're letting them get away with a lot more. It needs to be called more on the offensive players for sure. It either needs to be called more on the offensive players to make it more fair on the call, or they need to just let them play and it not be called as much. Either or, I'm fine with, but I'd prefer the latter. I'm going to mention one more rule change that I can think of off the top of my head that I would really like to see changed, and how about that being protecting the quarterback? That one drives me insane, along with a lot of other fans. They make them seem like they are playing, that they are competing in a 5-year-old gymnastics league. I mean, it is literally – that's right. It's literally that inconsistent, Rhett. If you touch the quarterback, they've gotten away from the 2 steps even. There's been calls, if you touch the quarterback on the helmet, it's a roughing the passer. 15-yard penalty. If you tackle them and it's within 2 seconds, because you're following through and you are running 15 miles an hour, it's a roughing the passer. Would you agree that that is another rule that has to be changed because it's affecting the game?
Yeah, I think that it's another thing where they protect him way too much. There's too many rules implemented around it, and it needs to be changed.
No doubt about it.
Obviously, they're a quarterback. They're really the main thing on the team.
The foundation.
So they need to be protected some, but there are some rules that need to be changed because now they're just making them look like big girls.
They really are, and for my analogy, little girls, 5-year-olds.
Yes.
Legitimately, we laugh about it and joke about it, but when we're watching our teams and it happens, we're pissed because when we're on defense, of course, but it's true because it affects the game, and it's like, really? And then you'll get into inconsistency where it won't be called on the other end. So then you get the same comparison with what's happening with the NBA official. That's a different segment for a different show for sure. How poor that officiating's been. We talk about that a lot, but, it's sad. We have to keep talking about it because it keeps getting worse. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to vent about it because it's incredibly annoying. But I think we're on the same page with those rule changes. Definitely needs to happen. So about half the rule changes we're happy with that's for this new season coming up. About half we're not. NFL, let's get these other couple of rules right in the future and get them changed because I have a feeling you're going to regret with the amount of talk and inconsistency from the officials that's going to happen once again this year by not changing the roughing the passer and the pass interference rules. So we will see with that. Rhett, let's get to this next segment here, all right? And this is one I know that you've been looking forward to a lot. Is Matthew Dellavedova a scrappy player or a dirty player? I'm going to let you start because I know we're going to disagree on this one.
All right. Yeah, I think that he is a dirty player. He is a dirty player. It's, facts. We have facts, Kyle. We have facts.
I'll tell you the facts.
Yeah, well, you can tell me in a few minutes. So we have facts, starting with the Chicago Bulls. Now, I would not call this, a dirty player per se, but this is the start of it. This is the start of it in the playoffs. Grabbing Taj Gibson's foot when Taj Gibson kicks him off, that's the start of it. That is the start of it. And Taj Gibson got thrown out of the game for that, which was just absolutely absurd. Absurd. Matthew Delly.
Give up.
I know, I have to. That's the start of it for the postseason.
Just call him Scrappy D. We're going to call him Scrappy D. Go on, Rhett.
There's a level that has to go to and a level that has to stop. And moving on to the Kyle Korver incident.
Kyle Korver.
This is just, as you watch the video, you can see him wrap his legs right around his legs and just try to take him out. There is no doubt in my mind that he knew that he was taking him out. You know, there is no doubt in my mind that he was blatantly wrapping his legs around it, because you could even see him wrapping his legs around it. You know, who knows? That could have been a different series. You know, I think the Cavs would have won, but they could have definitely put some pressure on him. And, you know, that is another reason why I think that he is a dirty player. And moving on again, Al Horford. What? I'll tell you what. He went right at Al Horford's knees. Now, can you agree on that, Kyle? Did you saw that play,
he was
right?
Possibly going for his knees. They're rolling.
Possibly, yeah. All right, possibly. Air quote, air quote. But he was going for his knees. So, Al Horford, he got, I believe, a flagrant one. So, that is something right there that shows that he is an instigator.
And it
Definitely.
goes to show, first of all of these, how bad the refs are, side note. But going on.
Yes, so moving on to the next one. And I believe the next one would end up being with the one last night that I saw. And the one last night would be, or no, this was in this series, I believe. He took a dive.
Talking about...
Oh, Draymond Green.
Green?
Draymond Green, yes. I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that.
It happens.
Draymond Green gave him a little bump, knocked him down, which doesn't take very much. And Delly, it was not dirty, Kyle. That happens in every game.
We'll get to it.
Delly falls down and then just tries to sweep Draymond Green's knees out from under him. What another dirty play from him. You know, it's just insane to think back of, you know, one time I can understand it might happen, but you keep doing it over and over and over.
All right, I'm going to pull the Stephen A. Oh, please. Are you finished? Are you finished? All right. He is a scrappy player, Rhett. He is a scrappy player, and we disagree on this. All right, I'm going to go through those instances that you had mentioned. All right, on the Gibson incident, he set 2 hard screens, including one in which he led with his shoulder, much like Draymond Green, into Dellavedova's face before shoving him under the basket. So how much more was Gibson going to get away with in that?
Oh,
how
you're
much
telling
more was Hey, it's
the
my
size
turn
difference.
to shine, baby. It's my turn to shine.
Size difference.
Dellavedova was irritated, clearly. How much more is he going to take? So he responded with a little leg lock after a made basket, and Gibson lost his cool on that. I'd call that Reggie Miller-esque. A little sneaky, a little clever, dirty. No. Get under his skin. Gibson got what he deserved by getting under his skin. That's what I see on that one. Moving on to the next incident you mentioned. How about Kyle Korver play? Okay, Dellavedova legitimately dove for the ball.
Yeah,
and got it before Korver and offered, and this is what he had to say about it. And it's understandable. If I stay on my belly, it's going to be a jump ball, so I protect the ball and kick it out to a teammate. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Clean play. And moving on to the next one.
Gosh.
Horford. This incident, okay, I'll give you this one, that this one might have been in the gray area. As, you know, when you're talking about knees, legs, obviously feet, that's where dirty play comes into it. But we mentioned on the other ones, they definitely weren't.
Oh, my gosh.
This one, okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Horford thought Dellavedova was rolling into his legs, possibly his knees. And Dellavedova said that Horford had him by the arm and dragged him down, which you could see both guys going at it. Now, I don't know.
He keeps going for people's legs on accident.
No, it's...
Continue.
It's a situation, Rhett, where he did what he had to do. He was playing hard against him.
I'm going to remember that when we play ball.
He's playing
I'm
hard.
going to remember that.
He was playing hard against him, and that's that, just like the previous incidents. How about the Draymond Green incident? Draymond Green threw a dirty, unexpected lunge shoulder at Dellavedova that knocked him down, and so naturally, when you're a little pissed off about getting a shoulder, you're going to try and retaliate a little bit. Now, let's face it, he wasn't going and tackling him at the knees. He stumbled a little bit getting up, running behind his legs, trying to get around Green to get back on defense.
Yeah,
not
took
dirty.
A little shoulder right at his ankle.
Not
right
dirty at all. So let me tell you what Dellavedova is. I think there's a lot of Delly haters out there. Call them D haters. Because he is a solid defensive player who gets under your skin, and it may come off as dirty, but it's scrappy. He's a scrappy player. He's a game changer with his scrappiness. Relentless effort. That's what I see in it, Rhett. I just have to make the comparison to the old days. Isn't this great basketball to see? Isn't it great physicality? In
There's
the old
different
days,
great things to see.
In the old days, you would have players, one of our very own, Reggie Miller, who you could consider at times have been a dirty player, but I would consider it what Dellavedova is doing, and that is cleverness, irritating the players to get under their skin, and taking advantage of that, just like Reggie did. And you go back to those bad boy Pistons days and the Reggie versus the Knicks days, the Bulls, the Celtics. What did you see? You saw fights constantly.
You saw fights, but you did not see people try and take people's they're trying to end people's careers by going out. If you take a swing at somebody's face,
You're
take
trying
a swing at somebody's face.
If you take a swing at somebody's face, like punches clearly happened back then, your intent is to injure that player. You are retaliating.
Exactly.
That is dirty, just as what you're claiming.
If both players are going to swing, then have at it. But when somebody dives at somebody else's knees, that is career-ending injury. You can blow somebody's knee out with that. I mean,
career-ending injuries can happen all the time.
Tell Delly to get up and go out Al Horford. I'd love to see that. Take a swing at him.
I would too.
I would love to see it.
He's not a dirty player, so he wouldn't do that.
Oh my gosh, not a dirty player, Kyle. Yeah, I think you even know it. You just like to irritate me.
I do, but I believe it because I think that's just the way that he plays. He's scrappy. He's an annoying defender. But he gets away with it. Maybe he gets away with a couple things, but it's no dirty. It's no dirty. Players are now trying to do the same to him. So
really? You see people diving at his knees?
When he goes to the floor, absolutely.
When he's laying on the floor.
Because they know, and he's on the floor at least 5 times a game because he gives great effort.
I can tell you right now that
dirty.
He will have another thing coming for him if he does it again, because then players are going to see how dirty of a player he is, and they're going to go for him. And I believe that. And
then when they are going for him because they're intending to, that's dirty, but he's not, so it's not.
It just keeps happening. It just keeps happening that he keeps falling into people's knees.
Well, it just happens to be that he's hustling more than anyone out there.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a coincidence.
He's falling into knees.
The fact that he's playing harder, I don't know, but you know what? I think that they clearly no one by his dirty play, let's face it, really being injured because of that. You can get injured on anything with your knee. I mean, we've seen it with players that could be career-ending without even being touched by a player.
But diving
AKA
at people's knees.
Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving, who fell on his own. Poor guy. But that's my point, Rhett.
Diving at people's knees.
Come on,
diving
man.
at people's knees is different.
It's physical.
And you know that.
It's exciting.
You know that. You don't like dirty players.
But he's not dirty.
But he is.
Dive at his knees. He plays
oh
hard.
My gosh,
he happens to find their leg area.
Finds it on purpose to try and take him out.
Yeah.
Exactly. It led me up for that one.
You can believe what you want. We can agree to disagree on this one, but the bottom line is he is scrappy, Rhett. He is not dirty.
I'm not going to tell you that he's not scrappy. He's a great defender, but I can tell you right now that he has the mindset when he is playing hard. I know that he's going for people's
win
knees.
At all costs. His mindset is no different than the bad boy Piston era.
But that's dirty. I would rather see somebody take a swing at somebody. At least if they take a swing at somebody, that might injure them for, a few months or maybe the season. But if you blow somebody's knee out, that could be life.
It could be, but most chances it won't be. So you never
know.
You can't make the comparison cannot be made because they're different.
Can be made. No, especially if you're diving into somebody's knees, that's totally different than taking a swing at somebody.
It is not.
Both of them can retaliate. The other one, somebody takes a knee or dives at your knee. What are you going to do? Fall to the ground and be in pain? I mean, taking a dive at somebody's knees is just one of the dirtiest moves you can do in the game of basketball.
Along with throwing a punch. That's the next
No, the other
dirty
person
one.
has a time to retaliate. That's a cheap shot.
It's a cheap shot, which is dirty, and what he's doing is not cheap shots because he's playing hard.
It's a cheap shot.
He's a scrappy player. And I love debating with you, Rhett, and that's absolutely fine. We can agree to disagree, but bottom line is Dellavedova's going to come up clutch with his scrappiness in Game 6, and they will force a Game 7. I love to see it. He's a player that plays hard. You got to love the heart. That's what I see in it.
He does play hard, but he's a dirty player. Now moving on.
We are moving on. And that is, as we try and wrap this show up, there is an issue, apparently, with fans heckling and booing some of the players on the PGA Tour. And if this is the case, should it be fixed? I'm going to start with this. The only thing I have not been made aware, and there's been very little I've been able to find about actual booing. There's been a couple incidents on the web tour that I've found, but the biggest thing that I'm aware of, because I've been to one golf tournament, and it was amazing, the fourth major of the year with you, PGA Championship at Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky, that the fans do, and that is they'll yell something after they swing. Everybody knows that the game of golf has a certain etiquette with it, and with that is the fans are supposed to keep quiet when the players are swinging, whatever it is. Really, talk is not accepted, and as it shouldn't be. It's an individual sport. These players are playing a game where they need that concentration. Granted, they're professionals, but it's part of the etiquette of the game. So I would agree. I think that booing would be wrong in the aspect of this sport. I think it has one exception because of the etiquette, and I think it's wrong to boo players. I find it comical when the fans yell ridiculous things after golf shots, but I do think it's also wrong because of the etiquette of the game. The players do not like it. There has been talks that the PGA is going to do something about this, but like I said, it's comical, but it distracts the players. It affects their swing and their game, and it's unfair to them because this has been what it's called is an unwritten rule. The etiquette of the game of golf. There's a lot of unwritten rules, and this is one that should be followed. But there are comical things. I mean, everything from mashed potatoes, scalloped potatoes, rutabaga. Every single thing. Yabba dabba doo. I mean, they really go out there. But let's face it, right after it happens, the players look back, and it's the same, and they'll say something. And it's the same thing with cameras and why cameras are prohibited, because it's a distraction. And I agree with the etiquette of the game, and I think that it needs to be protected. So for the instances that there's been booing, the fans yelling things, taking pictures, I think that needs to be continued to be locked down for the respect of the players in the game. What do you think, Rhett?
Oh, boy, here we go. All right, I'll agree on the first one. Tiger Woods was one of the people that got heckled and booed in Phoenix. And that was this year, which, understandably, he's played awful. But still, booing in the game of golf, I think, is wrong. It's a game of mental, it's a mental game.
Mental ability is key.
Yes, and that is one thing. I mean, especially with Tiger Woods right now, you can't get into his head anymore. He's going to be shooting in the hundreds.
You can't.
So,
can't.
it's wrong, I feel like, in that aspect of it. But now heckling after, I believe if it's after the shot, if he's done with his swing and he's just in the finish motion, and you yell mashed potatoes, there's nothing wrong with that. That's adding some life to the game. Now, one of our favorite shows, Kyle, favorite movies, Happy Gilmore, baby.
It is.
Happy Gilmore.
It is.
And, adding a little spice to the end of somebody's shot, that is not messing their shot up at all. It's after their shot. That should not be changed. Now, the booing part, that is where it should be changed. Because that's wrong.
I don't know. I definitely, we agree on the first part of it, but the second part with the fans yelling something, it's comical. It is, but if they're going to do it, it needs to be clearly after they are done with their full swing. And, they're trying to make some light of it, or they say something, yeah, playa. I mean, they say funny things, and I do think it adds to it because then the gallery laughs and it makes it more like a true sporting event. I know that I was just waiting to hear somebody yell something at every single hole we were on at Valhalla because, I mean, you anticipate it and it's funny. I can agree with that. I just think I understand the PGA officials and the commissioner – what their argument is for the etiquette of the game and the unwritten rule. And I agree with it. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm okay with it being either way with what happens with fans yelling something after. I'm not okay with booing. I think that's unacceptable and completely disrespectful.
Just in the PGA aspect.
Yes, absolutely. Now, other than that, we're playing each other in a little friendly game of me finally getting a scorecard, then hey, all right.
Now, I'd like to touch on the photography part of this because, you touched on it.
I did mention photography as part of the rule.
You touched on it, and I want to touch on it too. That is just absolutely stupid. Now, I'll tell you what. Now, if flash should never be allowed.
Exactly.
But if you have somebody's phone out taking a picture that does not make any noise, and you have the professional photographers standing right beside the golfer, as you can hear, sitting there hearing the click, 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 click.
That's a good point.
What is going on? What do you think is going to distract them more? Somebody taking a picture with their phone that makes absolutely no noise, or somebody that is standing right beside the player that is sitting there click, 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 click.
Okay, I'm going to clarify. I agree. Because of the phones nowadays, the technology, you can take a silent picture without them even hearing you. They'd hear you breathe before they'd hear you touch the screen of that phone. So I'm going to agree with that, and you make a good point with the professional photographers and those clicking noises. That's for sure. The ones it's the cameras with flash or that also make noise that I would definitely have a problem with, and probably the reason that they're not allowed because of that. That would be an issue. I do think that if you think about how the tee boxes are aligned with the gallery, you've got the player in the middle of the tee box teeing off, and you have the crowd all around him. So if, as much as I do believe that the clicking of the professional cameras may distract them more, you do have to think that as he's looking where he's going to hit, the player's going to hit the ball, they are noticing all of these cameras that the people are holding up, and I can see that being a distraction. So I definitely think that the fact that the flash needs to be off and no noise, absolutely. But then again, I think of it as a fan standpoint. You're paying a lot of money to get into these tournaments. You want to get some pictures of the moments and your favorite golfers, just like any other sporting event, right? So why not?
I can tell you right now, we disobeyed that rule when we went.
We did.
We definitely did. I did a selfie with Tiger Woods.
When we say disobeyed, now we had our phones on silent. We basically we captured some photos
Exactly.
under the radar. But I have to agree with that aspect of it because of what I just said about it being a sporting event, the memories, the moment, getting pictures of your favorite players, just like in any other sport. That should be allowed. I mean, for crying out loud.
If you're going to pay that much money to go and see golf at its finest, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a picture of it. That's for darn sure.
No doubt about it. And we got some good pictures. There's no doubt about that. So I would like to see them change that, I guess, from the aspect of the game now. Phones should be allowed, but they do need to have the rules in place about them being on silent with no flash. But I would say that those need to be allowed. Obviously, like, within limits. They can't, go under the ropes and, hey, Tiger, selfie on the tee box. Like, there's got to be limitations to it. You can't have some psycho running out there like on Happy Gilmore. If the camera guy was Lafferty Daniels and Happy Gilmore standing right in front of him, get out of the way. Taking a picture. We can't have that, but I would agree cameras need to be allowed for pictures from the fan standpoint of it. But other than that, I believe that we are on the same page agreeing with this PGA topic with the fans and the rules with the cameras and all. I like it, Rhett. On the same page. And that wraps it up for this HearSports show. Went a tad over again, but Rhett, you know what? That's what happens. Maybe it's a new tradition.
Hashtag great sports.
Hashtag great sports talk. That's right. It's a reoccurring theme, and when we get on a roll, we get going like Seabiscuit.
Oh, yeah. That is funny. I actually just got a text message from my friend and his nickname Seabiscuit.
Is that right? Isn't that something? I appreciate that. That is funny. But the bottom line is we love to talk about sports, and when we get on a roll, we get on a roll. Exactly. Especially when Kyle Newman wins a debate about Matthew Dellavedova being a scrappy player.
I would not say that.
But hey, until next week's show, to recap what was talked about on the show, we discussed the NBA Finals. We talked about NFL rules that need to change. We chatted about Matthew Dellavedova. And we discussed fans' actions on the PGA Tour along with cameras. That is all that we have for today. Thank you for tuning into our show. Feel free to leave feedback as we want to be able to address comments and questions on the show. Tweet and retweet the show at Kyle M. Newman, at Rhett Hensley, and at Indiana Pacers Talk. We will be back at it next Monday by 8 Eastern Time. I'm Kyle Newman.
And I'm Rhett Hensley.
Have a great rest of the day, and go sports.
Hashtag great sports.